So we picking up from where we left off in the Holy Quran, divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali. This is chapter 40, dealing with holy instructions from the Prophet, dealing with the instability of man. Inconstancy is powerful in the man's heart. Intemperance swayeth it whither it will. So let's review this sentence. When you look up inconstancy, you're dealing with uncertainty, you're dealing with being fickle, you're dealing with being unstable, you're dealing with lack of firmness. So inconstancy is powerful in the heart of man. Intemperance swayeth it. So intemperance swayeth the heart. What is intemperance? Lack of being able to have moderation or restraint, overindulgence. So lack of restraint and overindulgence causes inconstancy in the heart of man. When one does that, wither it will. The heart will wither. Wither means like disintegrate or become progressively weaker or more fragile or not as firm as time goes on, withering away. Despair, which means loss of hope, engrosseth much of it. So despair engrosseth much of the heart. Engrosseth is basically to absorb. So when these are the traits that one is displaying, it's also going to have physical traits. So inconsistency in the heart is based on intemperance. Intemperance is one that lacks willpower in a sense. So lacking willpower causes the heart to be fickle or undecisive. When that is the symptom, despair or loss of hope consumes the heart, or much of it. And fear proclaimeth, behold, I sit unrivaled, but vanity is beyond them all. Weep not therefore at the calamities of the human state. Weep not at the calamities of the human state. When you look up calamity, an event causing great and often sudden damage or distress. So when you put it in context with the human or one's characteristics, don't weep at one's shortcomings. Don't weep at, flaws in one's character. Oh, I ain't got no discipline. I just can't shake it. My willpower sucks. What am I gonna do? Don't weep. Don't weep at the calamities of the human state. Rather laugh at its follies. Laugh at it. What's a folly? The lack of good sense, foolishness. Folly is lack of good sense and foolishness. So laugh at your lack of good sense and foolishness. Laugh at it. Don't weep. Don't be stressing out, causing yourself to get sick. Just laugh at that. And I could checkmate that. The vessel can be operated by the God, right? The real divine me can control the vessel. I can knock off the follies. You can laugh at that. No need to weep at that, right?
Recording in progress.
If you could please mute. All right. In the hands of the man addicted to vanity, life then is but the shadow of a dream. What is vanity? One consumed with oneself. always in the mirror, for example. Or that's no, you're not concerned with nothing too much outside of yourself. That's the root word would be vain. So in the hands of the man addicted to vanity, life then is but the shadow of a dream. The hero, the most renowned of human character, what is he? But the bubble of his weakness. The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why would the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? Why would a man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? The man who or they say neglecteth, but the man who neglects his present concern to revolve, how will he behave when greater concerns come? The present concerns, the things you're dealing with at the moment, you neglect them to revolve. When you look at revolve, it means to ponder. And don't believe me, look these words up. I looked the words up. I took the time to look these words up. The man who neglected his present concerns to revolve, which means so you're going to neglect things you have to do just so you can sit up and just ponder all day, be in your thoughts, but get nothing done. A man who neglecteth his present concern to revolve, how will he behave when there's greater, when greater concerns come, or a more important task come, or more responsibility comes? How will one act then? When one acts like that, feedeth himself with wind, while his bread is eaten by another. That's an analogy, of course. You off into space, you ain't eating. Somebody else gonna snatch your food while you off in the clouds. Act as becometh thee in the present station, and in more exalted ones thy face shall not be ashamed. Act as becometh thee. Act like you got some sense, or act noble in your present station, because you might be in a bigger station. You might be whatever, a mayor, president, whatever, whoever, whatever is important to whoever, but bigger positions in the public eye. So you better act right now, right? Because look, the follow-up, and in more exalted ones, so in more exalted positions, so you can't handle yourself, or you better act right in your present condition, because in more exalted ones, more exalted positions, right? Thy face shall not be ashamed. So keep your character clean, because something might come back and haunt you 15, 20 years from now. Mess your whole infrastructure up. What blindeth the eye, or what hideth the heart of a man from himself, like vanity? There's nothing like it. Vanity is going to blind you and hide your heart like nothing else. Lo, when thou seest thyself, then others discover thee most plainly. Lo, when thou seest thyself, then others discover thee plainly, most plainly. When you're vain, all you see is thyself. All you are is caught up in yourself. And other people can see that plainly. Plain as day. As the tulip that is gaudy without smell, conspicuous without use, so is the male who sitteth himself up so high and not merit no merit, gassing himself up. I'm this, I'm the guy, but no merit. They compared that to a tulip that is gaudy. And when you look up gaudy, it looks very extravagantly bright. You know, it's going to catch your eye. That's what tulips do. So as the tulip that is gaudy without smell, so naturally you're going to want to pick up the tulip and smell it. If it don't smell like nothing, it's like, oh man, I thought the pleasure of what I'm seeing is going to match the pleasant smell. So they're giving an analogy comparing that is equated to somebody that sits their self up high, gassing themselves up, but has no merit. And merit just means, like they say in the Quran, a man that points and has never went that way is no different than a rock or something like that. I might be butchering it.
He was saying something like, a man that points is just a pointer. I know that.
Right, he's just a pointer. And you know what I'm saying, a rock can point or something like that.
Right.
It was an analogy basically saying, you know what I'm saying, like that Amigo song, walk it like I talk. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
The heart of the vein. So the heart of the vein is troubled while it seems content. His cares are greater than his pleasures. His solicitude with solicitude. Cares are concerned for something. So we're re-emphasizing. Because his cares are greater than his pleasures. And then they follow up with his solicitude. And when you look up solicitude, it means cares. So his cares cannot rest with his bones. The grave is not deep enough to hide it. He extendeth his thoughts beyond his being. He bespeaketh praise. So bespeaketh, when you look that up, is you're speaking things futuristically, right? So he bespeaketh praise to be paid when he is gone. See, right? So the person that's vain, he wants to be praised right now and after he's gone. But whoever promised it deceiveth him. So this arrogant, cocky, just vain personality, people that deal with people like that, they go, oh yeah. We'll honor you once you're gone. Yeah, for sure. But they deceiveth him. Hey, that's what happened, you know what I mean? Your character bad. Hey. As the man who engageth his wife to remain in widowhood, that she disturb not his soul, so is he who expecteth that his praise shall reach the ears beneath the earth, or cherish his heart in its shroud. A shroud is what someone wears when they're dead, like it's the clothes that are worn in the casket, so it's, you know, in modern times, the casket. So let's put this in context. As the man who engageth his wife to remain in widowhood, right? Not to disturb his soul. So basically, after remember the character we're talking about. We're talking about the vain character, right? The boastful character. This same character will want his wife to remain a widow after he transitions, right? That's the example being given, to not disturb his soul. So is he who expecteth that praise shall reach his ears beneath the earth. Like he think he want to hear praises while he gone in the casket. You want to hear the praises. Do well while thou liveth, but regard not what is said of it. So just do well. Who cares what, as long as you're doing well, who cares what people have to say? The universe gonna do its thing. The longevity is gonna sort things out. As time goes on, things will be revealed. Just do well. But regard not what is said of it. Content thyself with deserving praise. Be content with deserving praise. Just deserving praise. Be content with deserving praise. If you deserve the praise, people gonna give you the praise. And thy posterity shall rejoice in hearing it. So if you're doing good deeds, you're gonna get deserving praises to the point where your posterity, your heirs, your beneficiaries will rejoice in hearing the praise from people. So we're talking about you're gonna be respected time and like, you know what I'm saying? 100,000 years out. Like how we talking about Yahshua right now? How we talking about Prophet Muhammad right now? How we talking about Prophet Noble Jew Ali, Buddha, Confucius, for example, El Hajj Malik Shabazz? We talking about men that have transitioned in the physical realm, but have done great work and their reputation precedes them. These are all examples. As the butterfly who seeth not his own colors, as the jasmine which filleth not the scent, it casteth around. So is the man who appeareth happy. They're saying appeareth gay, but when you look that up, the context is happy. So the man who appeareth happy and biddeth others to take note of it. As the butterfly who seemeth not his own colors, as the jasmine which filleth not the scent, it cast around. So is the man who appeareth happy and biddeth others to take note of it. Appeareth happy and bidding others to take note of it. Remember, we're talking about the vain people who boastfully, the people that do this are happy inside. Remember, don't lose focus on the transition of how this chapter is going. It popped it off by saying the characteristics of vain people are inconsistent. They're overindulgent. Right? So keep all these things in mind. So my point was these people appeareth as if they're happy. That was my point. Based on the characteristics that we popped it off with. And they biddeth people, they're bidding people to look, take note of my happiness. I'm the man. Internally, remember that the characteristic, that word despair that was used? Internally inside, they have a lack of hope because they're so inconsistent. They're not really manifesting things. Read means to interpret, by the way. So when we're reading anything, it needs to be broken down and make sure the full grasp and context is grasped. To what purpose, saith he, is my vesture of gold? So vesture just means garb. So what purpose is my garb of gold? To what end are my tables filled with dainties? That dainties just mean delicacies or something good to eat. If no eye gaze upon them. So what good is my gold garb or my delicious dainties or pastries or, you know what I'm saying, delicacies if no one looks at them? If the world knows it. If the world knows it not, rather. So what good are these things if nobody's gonna look at it? Remember, this is the perspective of who? The vain person. This is their rationale. If nobody's looking at me, what good am I being here? Feel me? Noble Joe Ali, Keep it. Come on, man. You know how many times I read this? And this is just now popping out. Give thy raiment. So raiment means clothing. Give thy clothing to the naked, and thy food unto the hungry. So shalt thou be praised, and feel that thou deservest. Why bestowest thou in every man a flattery of unmeaning words? So you just running around telling people, just gassing them up, and you really don't feel that way. Why bestowest thou in every man the flattery of unmeaning words? Thou knowest when return thee, thou regard it not. What is being said, you know they don't believe you. They just saying, oh, okay. Like, this dude's a fool in his mind. In their mind, right? You know they regard us not. Why do you he knoweth he lie unto look, he knoweth he lieth unto thee. Why you gassing people up? They know you lying. They can see it. Come on, man. Yet he knoweth thou wilt thank him for it. Speak in sincerity. So you know the person going when you say, oh, you look good today, or this is the best you've ever looked. You look like you lost all this weight, and the person gained about 30 pounds. And you're gonna tell them in their face, oh, it looks like you just slender. What have you been doing? What? They know they gained 30 pounds. There's no way. They know you gassing them up. They're gonna still tell you thank you. That's what's being right. That's what's being said right here. So speak with sincerity, and thou wilt hear the instruction. The vain delighteth to speak of himself. The vain delighteth to speak of himself, but he seeth not the others, like not to hear him. If he have done anything worth praise, if he possesseth that which is worthy of admiration, his joy is to proclaim it. His pride is to hear it reported. The desire of such a man defeateth itself. Men say not, behold, he hath done it, or see, he possesseth it. So, right? Don't boast about achievements. Don't boast about possessions. But mark how proud he is of it. The heart of man cannot attend at once too many things. He who fixeth his soul on show loseth reality. Fix your heart on show, that means you lost reality. He pursueth bubbles which break in their flight. You chasing after bubbles. While he treads to earth, what would honor him? What would him honor, rather? So I want to open up the floor for analysis on this chapter. Notes that were took, thoughts before we transition to astral diagnosis.
I feel like basically this is what's going on right now with these energies. Like a lot of this whole vanity stuff is being revealed, and now this is me speaking from personal experience. But a lot of shit is being revealed to me through spirit. Like I've been doing shadow work. I know eclipse season is coming up, and everything in this just hit so on point. So from the first thing that you said, you were talking about intemperance, and that took me to tarot cards, because temperance is a tarot card. And when you look at the card, it's an angel standing in water, and he has 2 cups of water, and he's basically pouring the water into another cup. So that's basically, we need to be able to transmute our lower vibrational energy so that we don't become stagnant. And then when it does become stagnant in our bodies, it like manifests as a physical ailment. Like I didn't write down everything that it said in number 1, but it says something about like fear. If you don't transmute that energy, it'll manifest itself in your body as fear or being inconsistent, not really having the motivation to do stuff. Like, so we really need to pay attention to making sure that we are tempered and we keep stuff in moderation and we don't overindulge in stuff that is not in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing.
That's line. That's line. That's beautiful.
All
All
right,
right.
this is J Rob here. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Somebody else
No,
was on.
go, bro. Go, bro.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Horus, or that's the Greek, but Haru in the Kemetic spiritual science, man. And I think this reminds me of that because it's about dynamic, right? If you're so high up, you know, like a bird flying high up or high up in a tree, you know, that you can't come down and actually get your food, right? Like get your prey. Like Haru is the divine falcon. And it's like anything, it's like in life, its waves are cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And too much of either one is horrible for the spirit, right? So, you know, it's okay to accomplish things. It's okay to, you know, to make your own ladder, climb your own ladder, create a ladder with your community, climb that ladder. And we should all, you know, revere one another for their accomplishments, but for the one who is accomplishing, right? It's like Mafi said, that your reputation precedes you, right? If you a bird, you're just a bird, right? Like you fly, it's what you do, but you also have, there's a part of, you have to go down also in order to eat and then come back up. But both of them are equally important in one's existence. So that's kind of what I was just feeling as I was as Mafi was reading this. But thank you for sharing, man. This is beautiful.
Islam. Leon?
Yes, 3, 4, and 5 kind of stood out to me the most. 3, when it says, why should a man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? That was like, that hit me hard. Like, I mean, I feel like everybody does that with many things when we're trying to still force people to drink instead of just showing them where the water's at, you know?
Yeah.
Number 4 was saying to me is like, everything we do is an audition for what we want. And if you can't even handle the small parts, like, you know, holding this prop up or just being a backup, not even saying the lines, if you can't even do that, how can I make you the main star, you know?
Right.
So you gotta own. 5 is basically backing it up, saying you basically gotta fake it till you make it, or you gotta keep casting that spell until it manifests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Islam.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna state. 3, 4, and 5 was, I mean, you know, they was all solid as far as, you know, it's saying, why would you place, you know, a man with wisdom? Why would you endanger yourself around the fools? Like, why would you? That doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, you know, it's like, you got $1 billion brain. Why would you put yourself around $2 brains?
Right.
You know what I mean? And at the same time, when you get to 4, if you neglecting, you know, your present concerns, and you just sit there and you just daydreaming about what it's gonna be like in the future, same time, you that fool. Because in all actuality, your food is being eaten because you're not getting out there getting it. You
Right.
thinking and you ain't got no action.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And just that, you know, the acting becomes this, like, you gotta, like you say, you gotta fake it till you make it. So you gotta get into that energy of and start taking those actions, and that's how you attract them. So you know what I mean? That's why, like, yeah. 3, 4, and 5.
Anybody else?
Also, the piece about hearing with instruction, that was powerful, man. To hear, like, really active listening, to hear with instruction.
Islam. All right. Well, I'm gonna transition to astro diagnosis where we left off. Same thing, mental and physical notes. So we can have another analysis on the back end. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
It says
Yeah.
diagnosis from horoscopes. That's what it says.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's loud. All right, so chapter 11. Here's a diagram of as what we know as the Mother Zodiacus, the zodiac wheel. And this is also known as the solar return or birth chart. So this particular chart is a female born between January 27th, 1865, 5:15 p.m. So instead of using this horoscope for the diagnosis of a disease, we will use it to illustrate the art of directing and judging the crisis and the duration of the disease. So that's the context of this particular chapter. We find the fixed sign of Leo on the ascendant. Now we're speaking on what we just saw. All right. So we find the fixed sign of Leo on the ascendant with the cardinal signs of Aries and Libra on the 10th and 4th cusps. So I don't know if you all want to take a screenshot or a picture of this chart as I'm reading so y'all can look at it and get a visual because it's going to be speaking about this chart. All right. We find the fixed sign of Leo on the ascendant with the cardinal signs of Aries and Libra on the 10th and 4th cusps, respectively. The fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio intercepted. In this horoscope, we have two rulers, the ruler of the ascendant, the sun, which is in the sign of its fall in Aquarius and near the cusp of the 7th house, and the dynamic Mars, which is the ruler of the 10th house, placed on the cusp of the 11th house in a critical degree of the sign of Gemini. Mars is sextile to Neptune. I went over what sextile is the last 3 weeks, so whoever doesn't know what sextile is, look it up. But just know it's dealing with degrees of distance, a certain degree of distance. Mars is sextile to Neptune in the 9th house, and trine, same thing. Trine is a certain number of degrees, trine to the sun in the 6th house. Therefore, we may look to the sun and Mars as having the greatest influence on the life of this woman. Now let us find the afflictions which were responsible for the sickness which overtook her. We find Jupiter, which has rule over the arterial blood, in its own sign of Sagittarius in the 5th house, square to Venus, which rules the venous circulation, and which is exalted in the watery sign of Pisces in the 8th house. Jupiter is in the opposition to Uranus in the sign of Gemini in the 11th house. Venus is also square to Uranus. Now, what do these afflictions from the common sign indicate? We have had similar indications in horoscopes of those who were afflicted by tuberculosis of the lungs. Venus and Jupiter, both so strong by sign, and afflicted by Uranus. This last named planet being Gemini, which has rule over the lungs, would naturally interfere with the oxygenation, also giving a tendency to coughs and colds. On January 21st, 1909, this woman contracted a heavy cold, which culminated in double, I can never pronounce this word, pneumonia, pneumonia. The adjusted calculation date, calculated as taught on page 470 in the book Message to the Stars, which was the book he's been cross-referencing the last couple chapters, is August 16, 1864. We will now progress the planets from August 16, 1908, which corresponds to their places in the ephemeris on March 12, 1865, by adding the distance which the principal planets move in 5 months. We find that in January 1909, the progress sun was in 22 degrees, 22 seconds of Pisces, 22 minutes of Pisces. The moon was in 27 degrees, 28 minutes of Virgo. Mars was in 21 degrees of Gemini. Jupiter in 27 degrees, 19 seconds of Sagittarius, and Venus in 7 degrees, 50 seconds of Taurus. Mercury in 17 degrees, 16 seconds of Pisces. Now, to judge the kind of sickness, we must see what aspects were made between the progressed and radical planets bearing on the organic weakness of the lungs and poor circulation of the blood as shown in the radix. We first took the afflictions of the planets in common signs and find that the sun had progressed to the conjunction of the radical Venus in Pisces, which made a square to the radical Jupiter. Mars had progressed to the opposition of the radical Jupiter and was square to the progress sun. We also find that the progress moon was square to the radical Uranus in the sign of Gemini, indicating the lungs. The above aspects of the progressed planets to the radical were a very severe affliction, and especially since they were from the common signs or mutable signs. These are 3 points to be taken into consideration in reading a horoscope. The radical chart is as the face of the clock. The progressed planets are the hour hand, and the daily transits and the new and full moon may be compared to the minute hand, which tells the exact time. Once again, we gave an example of a clock. The progressed planets are the hour hand, the daily transits, and the new and full moons may be compared to the minute hand, which tells the exact time. The progress aspects alone will not act. There must be an exciting factor or something to stimulate factor. The transits act as the match that lights the fuse. The transits act as a match that lights the fuse. And the transitioning or transiting moon with its aspects and its lunations is the time marker. So the moon acts as the time marker. The moon's lunations is the time marker. Interesting. On January 21st, 1909, we find that the moon was a conjunction with the sun. So the moon was in conjunction with the sun, 1909. And this was a new moon in the sign of Aquarius in square aspect to the radical Saturn, which is in the fourth house in Scorpio. So I'd imagine people have been looking up trine, square, sextile by now. And as I'm reading, that'll make more sense to you. This lunation marked the day when the woman first contracted the code, which culminated, I just said it too, that's crazy, which illuminated in Lamonia. Saturn at birth is square to the radical sun, and the lunation naturally strengthened this affection. This of itself would not have affected the lungs, but we find the progressed sun in conjunction with the radical Venus in the 8th house and in the watery sign of Pisces. Venus is the most adversely situated planet in the horoscope. Venus, the flag behind me, that green star, that's Venus, by the way. And we have this modern European speaking on Venus. Venus is the most adversely situated planet in the horoscope. It is in its exaltation in Pisces, but is afflicted by a square of Jupiter and Uranus at birth. The radical Jupiter is receiving this assistance from the sextile of the moon. And Uranus has a trine from Saturn, which will ameliorate the evil of these two planets. But Venus is afflicted from both sides and without a single good aspect to offset the evil. That's interesting how they put that. So if you do have afflictions, but you don't have other things in your chart to offset the afflictions, then it's a tad bit challenging. We also find that Venus had progressed to 7 degrees 50 seconds of Taurus in the 10th house and had reached a square of the radical sun. The double affliction of the sun, the effect of which is of a hot and inflammatory nature, was in this case responsible for inflammation, which took place in the capillaries of the lungs. So the double affliction of the sun, which is of a hot and inflammatory nature, so a double affliction, causes inflammation. And in this person's case, the lungs, because remember they had Gemini in a certain aspect dealing with the lungs. But the question may be asked, why should this inflammation take place in the lungs? Why not in the throat or feet where the afflicting planets are found? Mars, which is another hot and inflammatory planet, had progressed to 21 degrees, 0 minutes of Gemini, and was then squaring the radical Venus and progressed sun. Mars, therefore, was the focusing point of the disease. We have previously stated that the moon is the time marker of a disease and also marks the crisis. We therefore go to the beginning when the code was contracted and watch when the moon came to a square to the place of the lunation, which was at midnight of January 27, 1909, 7 days later. So that was the time marker. So the moon's a time marker. Medical science counts its critical days by 7, 14, and 21. And if anybody don't know the correlation, I mean, it seems simple to me, but the moon works in phases of 7. So 7, 14, and 21 would be the lunar phases. And they're saying medical science counts its critical days by 7, 14, and 21. The moon has particular influence over man and marks the time when recovery is apt to take place. If that's not heavy, I don't know what is. If that's not heavy, I don't know what is heavy. I lost sense of what heaviness is. Let us follow the transition. Let us follow the transiting moon on her journey and see her influence. On the 25th, she reached the conjunction of the radical Venus and progressed sun, also opposition to the progressed moon, which was in 27 degrees, 28 seconds of Virgo. This did not bring any great change, but on the night of the 27th and in the early morning of the 28th, when the transiting moon reached the square of the preceding lunation, a conjunction with the midheaven of the dragon's tail and the progressed Venus, also in opposition to the radical Saturn, death was very close based on these characteristics and conjunctions. At 1 a.m. of the 28th, the woman passed out of the body. She was able to see herself lying on the bed and was fully conscious that death was near when the crisis of the nurse who shook her brought her back to life. The length of an illness may be known by the signs in which the planets which caused the illness are found. The length of an illness may be known by the signs in which the planets which cause the illness are found. If in fixed signs, the recovery is slow. In cardinal signs, the illness is very severe, but quickly over. In all cases, it is well to look at the radical aspects of Mars and the sun. If these planets are well situated and aspected, as in the case of this woman, Mars trine to the sun in this case, and if fixed signs are on the angles, it is an indication that the patient will win out or bounce back. Where many under similar afflictions will go to the grave. So that's interesting because I remember in like 4 chapters, they were talking about the ascendant of somebody being a indicator of how much will someone has. And now we're getting into the more details. So we're looking at precision diagnosing right now. I'm going to pick it back up on Friday, the holy day, with chapter 12. We're going to be dealing with the ears and nerves. So I want to open the floor up as we did before. I want to hear analysis, what stood out to people. Thoughts.
All right. I was listening to you and reading what you and the last part you was saying as far as, well, it wasn't the last part, but part you was stating when they was saying that the moon has the power over the man, basically to, like, you know, when you need to reset. And that just resonated on a higher level. Because the last meeting we had, remember, I was telling you about, I was seeing Luna, and I had did some research as far as, you know, the lunar system and just emotion and different stuff. So for that to say that, it's just like it's over confirmation, but that's deep because it resonated on a whole nother level past just, you know, just intaking the knowledge. It's like the wisdom with the experience of it. Like, so that's what that means now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Islam.
Islam.
and with uh the signs as far as like Gemini. I'm a Gemini, understanding it's an air sign and it controls, like the respiratory system, like the lungs and all that type of stuff. So like I was just seeing how much that had to play within, within this what I'm saying, as far as this chapter. And it's like, that's wild.
Because that's why the female was having the lung issues. Because she got an aspect in that sign that deals with the lung. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
thinking about that too when I was reading that. I was happy, man, real heavy.
Yeah, that's wild. And they were saying, as far as, if pretty much if you don't have those signs, it's like you're gonna go out, like you saying it, the chapters prior, that indicates the will, indicates how, like, the fight in you. So yeah, that's deep.
Mhm. And this stood out to me right here. The length of an illness may be known by the signs in which the planets which cause the illness are found. If in a fixed sign, so fixed signs, the recovery is slow. In cardinal signs, the illness is very severe but quickly over. That right there, that had me. That's like I say, this is very specific. You know what I'm saying? In diagnosing someone and thyself. So like, it's crazy, man. We should have been on this.
Yeah, you gotta know your birth chart, know what, with these planets and what houses is going on. That's it. Once you get to understanding that, you understand yourself so much more. That's why it's broken down like that. You know what I mean? It's wild. I mean, but it's all one.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, once you get oh no, go ahead. Matter of fact, go ahead, Phoenix. You got something?
Oh, I just like the part about the clock, how it broke down the planets as the hour hand, and then the daily transitions and the new moon as the minute hand. Like I like to study astrology, and I dug into my birth chart, but I had somebody read it for me first because I don't know like the sextiles and all that stuff. I try to familiarize myself with it, but I was getting confused. So this whole clock thing, I'm about to tear it apart and break it down and play with it to see. Like I have to teach my brain different ways to process stuff. So yeah, this clock stuck out to me. I'm about to tear that up.
That's loud.
As in clock, you mean the thing with the girl whose chart we used as a model?
Well, that's the birth chart, but when they it was something in the literature how they explained it as a clock. So now I want to go look at my own birth chart with the knowledge of knowing the minute the planets are the hour hands and stuff like that. So it's just a different perception for me to look at it to see if I'm going to pick up the information different.
Yeah, if anybody can shoot me a video on how to read birth charts, that'd be cool. Like a
It's
good one. 'Cause I don't really.
It's a website called Astrology Cafe, and you can type your information in there, and it'll actually read it for you. It give you a picture of the circle, but it's gonna break down so where you don't really know. You don't have to know how to read an actual birth chart. It's gonna give you the information.
You think they'll teach you how to read it too on that website, more or less?
Nah, they not gonna teach you how to do it. They gonna ask you to pay for a full birth chart analysis type thing. But I'm sure you could do it by yourself. Like
Okay, I get you. So that's like more intricate levels of
Islam. It's another app called CoStar. I mean, they pretty in depth, and letting you know what's going on in all the different houses too.
Mm-hmm. They even got one for numerology. It break down your life path number, your soul urge, your heart, everything. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what's up.
Wow.
I like the part about the increments of 7, man, and how that correlates with the medical sciences and the moon. And I was just looking at what some different religions, share in terms of their perspective on the number 7, and it's a totality, it represents totality and completeness. So that was cool. I like that part. Yeah, right there. That was very telling.
Medical science counts its critical days by 7, 14, and 21. And that's funny that you mentioned completion, because that's what the number 9.
That's what the number 9 is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's still lunar, 3 trimesters, we still talking lunar.
I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing, but when I was a kid, for some reason, when I was counting numbers or writing numbers out, I associated a gender, like this is a masculine number, or this is a feminine number. And to this day, I can kind of, tell you either which one. Has anybody else ever had that similar experience? Like without any sort of like knowledge of this stuff, just kind of like you felt like it was always there in you?
I recently stumbled across information, but it was with the alphabet. It wasn't necessarily with numbers. It was
interesting.
Masculine and feminine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But numbers are letters, so why wouldn't it be the same thing? Like it's the same. Like I understand what you're saying, and I just clicked something in my brain. I'm gonna have to go tear that apart too. Like, okay.
That's a great point. Great point.
Yeah, man. And the radical chart is the face of the clock. The progressed planets are the hour hand, and the daily transits and the new and full moons may be compared to the minute hand, which tells the exact time. So I wanted to, recite that again for Brother Toledo, because he was asking about that. Did anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I got a thought and a question. The first one, I'm just going to add to the sevens. What came to my mind when it came up too is that every 7 years we get a brand new body. So it kind of correlates with the completion of the death of your old body and the renewal of your new one. And so that goes along with health as well, So depends on what year they are in the solar arena too, which may determine healing capabilities or what areas being affected.
Right.
And the question is, I didn't hear them say anything about the common signs and how they react to the illness, length of time and all that. Is that coming up later, or?
He mentioned that in the previous chapter. They don't really do too, kind of, once they think about disease, it kind of festers it, they start thinking about it and they become sick.
Because they have the lower willpower, was that the one? Right.
No, it's the Mercury. For me, in my case, it's the Mercury that has me always thinking, always analyzing. So I'll be like, I'll sneeze or something, and I'll think about it. I'm like, am I sick? No. And then I'll start
almost a thing like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Who was saying earlier about the number 9 also being a number dealing with completion?
That was me.
Because man, that just made me think of the big C out here that we've all had to deal with in different capacities, man, and the significance of why that number would be on the end of that, besides what the year or what have you. I don't know. That just made me think about that, man. And kind of how it's, I don't know, how different people deal with it. Everybody has like a different experience of it. It's interesting.
Yeah, even when he was saying he brought up the fact how every 7 years you're supposed to evolve. So it's a different stage of life. That in itself, as well as the number 9. But I was more fascinated by what you said, because I never heard the complete, like you said, the 7, 14, and 21 is completion.
Yes, sir. 7, just that number 7, or even the increments is supposed to represent like completion or like complete cycle.
Right.
And perfection, I guess, which is synonymous to completion.
It's supposed to be 7 represent the perfected man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
But I guess how that fact correlates with how 7, 14, 21 are lunar phases or moon phases, and how number 9 is completion based on 9 months in the womb or 3 trimesters. How all that's kind of tied in. That's what that's what's
I
fascinating.
am. The 9 is the I am.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
7, 4, 21, 7 Elohim, 1 creation, 4 elements, and together as one.
Wow.
That's 1, 4.
I never heard it put like that, but that's dope.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this type of you know, the Quran and this, because this is basically the Quran with the, you know, from a different angle, but it kind of unlocks some things in your mind, man, because you start remembering stuff that you learned a while ago and it just pop up. This to help you remember, you know?
It's all activations, DNA being activated.
Yeah.
Is everybody pretty familiar with that 369 and the sacred, how they rule the other numbers? And then 9 is basically the last number before it all starts over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 embodies all the numbers too. All other vibrations of the numbers.
The other hidden force, the invisible force.
Those was the
3, 6, and 9.
the frequencies, the hertz, and all that. Those is the God angel numbers, and angel, like when you see the 333s and the 111s and stuff, like those are the angles of light with messages in them. You know what I'm saying? So it's corresponding with a cosmic. I guess it's, you know, because she just said too, like, you know, the numbers are you know, or alphabet, you know, or letters as well. So if they alphabets, then I think it's just corresponding with the cosmology of just finding out, okay, reading the numbers, checking out the date, what's going on in that sign or in those signs and those houses, and then just putting it all together when it comes to you, because it's naturally coming, like you're saying. So, and we remembering things that we probably learned in our youth, because a lot of us, like I just heard, because I kind of got tapped out when my phone died, but I just heard him mention like every 7 years, you know what I mean, it's a recreation. And it's crazy because I used to hear like, you know, our 10-year-old self, where we learned from our youth to our 10-year-old self to our 20s, like our 20-year-old self is now relying on that 10-year-old self to gain the knowledge. And then our 30-year-old self is now relying on our 20-year-old self. So in those times of learning, like you go through those cycles of changes of where you should be finding yourself in different parts of it. So I kind of like related that those 7 years of a new relation to that, to where it was like, dang, that's kind of crazy, because I used to think like that, like, you know, that's the self learning in those experiences to grow. Because had we learned in the village with the tribes of our family like we were supposed to, we would have all this knowledge of learning the elements and then going into cosmology and astrology and stuff like that. So it's yeah, man, it's all divine. It's all divine with basically bringing us back universal and the full 360. So that's a beautiful thing.
I see.
It's not. Yeah, I like how you said the messengers of light too. Like you're talking about the angels are the angles of light. How light gives messages. And that's like fiber optics and, you know, things like that. You just gotta be at a level to receive, to tap into it. So yeah, that's big, man. And once again, you know, the content and literature at hand has us freestyling and talking about things, and we're having a think tank. It's bringing stuff forth, you know, to the forefront. So this is noble activity right here. You know, we're having a noble meeting. This is a more.
And then, so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just had another download. So you first we were talking about the number 9, and then you started talking about the being light beings. That took me to tarot cards. I don't know, I always relate stuff to tarot cards. But number 9 in the tarot deck is the Hermit. And it's this old man with a staff with a gray beard, and he's holding a star and like a lantern. So the Hermit is the person who studies himself. He is the beacon of light. So we are all our own beacons, and we're just sharing our wisdom so we can illuminate the other lights type shit.
And the Hermit,
Yeah.
Virgo is the
And Virgo energy, yeah.
Yeah, and
My
he
brain-
represents solitude, like going within self, like to learn stuff.
Yes. You gotta moderation, isolate yourself from certain stuff so that you get the right downloads type shit.
moderate.
That's deep, because he really do got the light. He pull up with the light, and that's, you feel me? You got to go within to really see what that message is. Hey, that's
real.
deep.
You said moderation, right? In the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
intemperance.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's crazy how all this shit relate to each other. Astrology, numerology, tarot, everything, like it all overlap.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
You gotta have temperance. You know what I mean? You gotta have moderation.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
If not, you start operating out that vanity, out that devil energy, that shadow shit.
Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts?
I was just gonna say, man, you guys basically already said it, like together in harmony, but it's like, so if vanity is excessive pride or admiration in one's own personal appearance or achievements, right? If we say it like that, then it means like you're not even really looking at yourself, because none of those things are you, you know. And it kind of, and as it goes down, it talks about like a man wanting to take all of these achievements and everything to his grave, and even his pride, you know, to the grave. And it's like none of the, even your pride is not you. You know, it's like we're constantly distracted by things that we associate with being ourselves. But that's not even our true self. You know, so surface.
You're not even looking at yourself.
You're not exactly.
You're not even looking at yourself. And ain't that our culture as Moors practicing I self-law master, or Islam in general, or any level? You look within. You look within. You gotta look at self. So if you vain, you're not even looking at yourself. That's blasphemy.
Wow.
That is the deepest.
That's against the Sufi. That's against, you're not Sufi. You're not practicing Moorish science. If you're not, you know what I'm saying? That was a download I just got when you was talking. I got a download right now. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're not even looking at yourself. You're not even looking within. When you vain, you're like, that shit. It's just flat out like that.
Word up. But we all cosmic energy, see what I'm saying? Sharing the angles of light. You know what I'm saying? So that's the universal pull, and that magnetic pull. That's why it's a blissful thing to actually have these, to bring us into that illuminated light state. And divine, honestly, problem. Let's know that.
It say as far as, you know, like we was talking about, as far as the Hermit and bring, you know, the message and the light and angles. You know, it says a guide figure at hand, offering help, symbolic of spiritual enlightenment, solitary introspection and contemplation. Some soul searching and reflection are required on your part. You must make an effort to connect with this guide or consciously begin a search for the truth. The universe cannot speak to you if you are distracted by the noise of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's that. You got to really go into solitude, and that's when you're gonna get them downloads, them good ones. Like, you know what I'm saying? You getting them right now, but when you get by yourself and you can really, man, that's when they really get to falling in, because you get to looking in. It's like you knocking the dust off of a box or something. And it's like, oh, I can read it now. Oh, okay.
And then when you do that, right? And then now when you come back to the side, you that much more valuable. You that much more vibrating with a sharpened scimitar. You know what I'm saying? And
Samples.
we all can help each other in that regard.
Yeah, sample. For sure.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful because I see both, like being amongst the boards in this situation, high vibrational, and it brings something out, and there's also value in being alone. Because you need to get in tune on all type of levels internally. You know what I'm saying? And but when you come back to dealing with people again, you that much more in control. You that much more like wise, and that's what they symbolize, right? When they coming down from the mountain and you got the gray beard, Moses. That's all that means. He was solitude, he became a monk. Oh, that's all the same thing. Nobles, monks, Shaolins, Taoism, Buddhism, Sufism. It's all the same thing. Getting to know with the one within. You know what I'm saying? That achieving that peaceful state. Because when you see people like that shit like I'm telling you, like people be looking at it's a different thing. Like people stand out for sure. You know what I mean? And I've got that at the last 4 or 5 years, ever since I've been wearing the fez and the turban, man. I'm getting different looks. And that's why all this stuff is so eye-opening, man, because like I got something to compare to before I knew this information and right now. And it's like it's crazy. It's a whole different paradigm. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's all I gotta say on that. Any other thoughts? Can we close out?
Yeah, I have one more kind of a side note. When he brought up, one of the brothers brought up 369, it kind of gave me a download. I'm not sure if anybody's on it already, but anybody wanting to get more interested in the 369 in a different way, look up Vortex Math, VORTX Math. It kind of breaks down another simple math that we use, and then how the 369 works behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom,
Yeah, 369, that's supposed to be the key to free energy. Tesla was on into that supposedly, and probably has to do with the pyramids. They say they were energy houses back then. I don't know how much of that is true, but I believe it.
Big facts, big facts.
You said pyramid, and anytime I think of 369, I automatically think of a triangle. Like that's where my brain takes me.
That's pretty much what it is. I think 3 governs like the first couple numbers, and 6 governs the next couple numbers, and 9 governs all of it. That's the highest number. I think 7 is the perfect number, and I could be wrong, but I heard it somewhere in the material realm, like here where we are, and then 9 is like that's when you come from somewhere else, like when you develop in the womb. It's like that Fibonacci sequence thing, like you start as a spiral and just spiral out.
man, that's crazy. I'm looking at that right now. Because all this type of talk, I looked up the golden ratio. That's what it's called.
Exactly. I was just about to say the golden ratio.
Yeah. And the formula, I think, is like 3, 4, 5, though. But I think because it's about building a 90-degree angle in carpentry.
It comes from the Fibonacci spiral, and it's 1, 3, 5, 6, and 9, and then it continues to spiral in that spiral as is the planets going as well. But it's the Fibonacci spiral as well as the golden ratio.
Yeah. So that's that's foundation. But yeah, that's on my mind when you was talking. But yeah, it's all related, and you know what I'm saying. Just all right. Also known as the Fibonacci sequence. So these are different names for it. Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio.
I remember listening to somebody say too how 9 is like feminine, 9. That's what brings creation forward to this material. The spiral, yeah, the female.
Back to Luna. That's great.
And then when you add all three of those numbers together, you still come back at 9.
Facts, that part.
Man, every number going to 9.
Yeah, don't nothing go past it. It always come back to 9.
It reset back to 0.
Yeah. Well, we don't even count the 0, but the 9, because the 9 is
The
the
0 is the void. Yeah.
0 would be the void, but like it's just the 9 because you have to start with 1, and then the 1. You know what I'm saying? Having
Yeah, 2 to duality, and 3 is creation and the foundation and the change.
Yeah,
Prosperity.
Yeah, that's good.
Yo, y'all are on a different level right now. I just want to say, because I just put up a picture of the Ankh, and if you really look at it, there's who said the number 1? There's the number 1 and there's the number 9. Arguably, like if you really look at it,
Right.
starts to make a lot of things make sense. And 0, technically, the top of it, the feminine, the limited potential.
And it's the what, alpha and the omega. I think it's an A and an O. When you really look at that shit, the beginning and the end.
Absolute. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's science. You start with a split in 2, then it keeps splitting. And I think somebody just said it. I just heard it. Somebody said when it splits the first time, you're dealing with duality. When it splits the third time, you're dealing with Trinity.
Co-creation.
Right, procreation. And, what's 4? 4 quadrants. And,
or like stability,
foundation.
authority, spinning on your square.
Right.
Oh yeah, foundation.
Right. So, yeah, it's heavy right here. So, if nobody got anything else they want to share or thoughts? I'll see everybody on the holy day. 8 o'clock.
Blaze, yeah, man, you're right. 369 with the 3 times and 6, yeah, in the chat.
That's bad at that. You gotta start looking at the chat. I wasn't too bad. No, yeah, pretty.
I was thinking, how you feeling?
Right. I know I'm late. I'm just getting caught up on the chat. But yeah. I was gonna say, if everybody with the merch, if everybody gets at least bare minimum twice a day, it's once a day, I guess once or twice a day. Just the merch, play it on y'all stories. We're doing pretty good with that. I think we sold about 14 pieces of merch so far. And yeah, we manifested.
Hey, you still recording? Oh, okay.
Oh, so that's good. Yeah. Keep promoting. And we're doing well. About to pop up the sweats pretty soon. Let's see how that do. But yeah, salam everybody. See everybody on the holy day.
Islam family.
Islam nobles.
Islam.
Islam. Peace and love, Moabites and nobles. Peace and love. Y'all have a blissful evening.